He has been decorated by various honors, and notably Padma Bhushan in 2011. So it is my great pleasure on behalf of the Academy to invite Shri Shyam Saran ji to give his public address.
Professor Gupta, Director of the IASc Institute, distinguished scientists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a particular pleasure for me to have this opportunity of interacting with some of the best minds in our country. Those who have made a huge contribution to the development of India, its science and technology, and who have perhaps a much greater responsibility, I would say, for the future of India. Because the future of India, I believe, is under challenge. And this challenge, only people like you can help us meet. So it's a very, very big honor for me to have this privilege of coming here and speaking to you and spend some time with you. As has been mentioned by Dr. Sood, one of the important responsibilities that I had to assume, particularly after I joined the Prime Minister's office, was to serve as India's special envoy on climate change. This role encompassed two different dimensions. One was the purely diplomatic aspect, that is negotiating in the international arena a climate change regime, multilateral regime, which would in a sense determine how the international community would work together to deal with what is, after all, a cross-cutting challenge, or a challenge which is truly global in character. Reason being that it is a challenge which no single country or even a group of countries can really deal with. It is something that can only be dealt with if all the countries in the world work together. So the one aspect that I was looking at was the multilateral negotiating aspect. The other aspect that I was involved with was what do we do in India with respect to the climate change, challenge of climate change. And in that respect, much of my work was related to the formulation of India's National Action Plan on climate change, which was adopted finally by the Prime Minister on June 30th, 2008. And this particular plan encompasses 8 separate national missions. And I'm particularly happy to be here today because one of the national missions that I was very keen should form part of the National Action Plan was in fact a national mission to sustain the very fragile ecology of the Himalayas. And that's what Professor Gupta's institute is dealing with. Climate change is based on some basic assumptions, and I would like you to understand those assumptions. One is that the phenomena of climate change cannot be separated from the phenomena of what we call today energy security. Because why is climate change taking place? I don't need to tell the scientists here that climate change is taking place because of the accumulated greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere, which accelerated the use of fossil fuels. We began with a great revolution by being able to use coal as a source of energy. The next revolution which took place was the use of oil. In more recent times, we are using gas, and that is being called a much more efficient source of energy. But what is common to all of them? What is common to all of them is that these are all fossil fuels. That is, the burning of these fuels release greenhouse gases, carbon emissions into the Earth's atmosphere. Former Union Minister for External Affairs, because that is the role in which I have served together with him. So I'm delighted, sir, that you found time to come here this evening. So as I was explaining that the reason why we have this accumulation of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere is because of the burning of various carbon-based fuels, fossil fuels. So you have coal, you have oil, you have gas, and unless we make a strategic shift, that not only India, but unless the world makes a strategic shift from its current reliance on fossil fuels or a pattern of economic growth which is dependent upon the use of fossil fuels, to a pattern of growth which is essentially based on renewable sources of energy and cleaner sources of security, in a sense are two sides of the same coin, and you have to deal with that. So, one assumption that underlies the National Action Plan on Climate Change is reflecting this need for what I call the strategic shift. And this can take place only over a period of time. There is a certain transition which is involved. What do we do in the transition period? Because we will continue to have to rely on fossil fuels for a considerable period of time. So another aspect of the National Action Plan on Climate Change says, during this transition period, our focus has to be on how do we ensure a much more efficient use of existing resources. So if we are, for example, still using coal for the next 30 years, 40 years, if today our efficiency of coal burning is 32%, 33% in a subcritical plant, can we increase that efficiency to something like 47% or 48% in an ultra-supercritical plant? And there are a whole series of basically energy efficiency related measures which are incorporated in the plan, and those fall under the National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency. So that is dealing with the transition period. Third element is that the way in which a developing country like India would deal with climate change is not quite the same as how a mature industrial economy. If you look at the Indian case, all aspects of climate change impact are also linked to the process of economic and social development. That is, all the stresses and strains that India is facing because of rapid economic and social development, in fact, get exacerbated because of the impact of climate change. So whether it is water use, whether it is agricultural growth, whether it is the very rapid urbanization which is taking place in the country, if you look at all these processes which kind of come under the rubric of development or modernization, all these are going to be exacerbated. They are already causing great strains in our economy, in our society as well. But all these strains are going to be exacerbated, are going to be, in a sense, made worse because of the impact of climate change. So we cannot separate dealing with climate change from the development process itself. So these are the three assumptions which underlie the national strategy with respect to dealing with climate change, which is incorporated in these 8 missions in the National Action Plan on climate change. Now, in this context, we have to now shift to the international forum, because I started my remarks by saying that climate change is a global issue. Climate change is a cross-cutting issue. No single country can deal with what is essentially a planetary phenomenon. So what do we need? What we need to do is something which has already been acknowledged as far back as 1992, where the world got together to adopt the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And much of the work that I was doing with regard to the international negotiations, or as chief negotiator, in fact dealt with how do we translate that legal document into actionable measures that the entire world would take. Now, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change recognized the fact, what I mentioned to you earlier, that essentially the phenomena of climate change is taking place because of these accumulated greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere, and who is mostly responsible for that? The industrialized countries of the world. Therefore, in dealing with this aspect of accumulated greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, they have their responsibility, primary responsibility, to reduce their, in real terms, reduce their emissions over a period of time. And that is a legal obligation. Partly to make space, atmospheric space available for developing countries who inevitably will see a rising curve in their emissions, even if they were to adopt, climate change action plans like India has. So there is no escape from that. Why? Because there is a certain, what you can call a carbon budget in the Earth's atmosphere. So what is this budget? Now, as a result of the intergovernmental panel on climate change, the fourth assessment report came out in 2007. And what they said was that if current trends continue, then we are on track to see a 2 degrees centigrade increase in global temperatures by the year 2050. And that could lead to very serious consequences, perhaps even irreversible consequences, as far as the very fragile life-sustaining systems which hold our planet together. And that translates into 450 ppm particles per meter in the atmosphere. So that's the limit that we cannot cross. We are currently at something like 380 or 390. So you can see that there is a very small spectrum that is available as we go forward. Now, essentially what has happened in the negotiations is a very simple phenomenon. The industrialized countries of the West, who are mainly responsible for those 380 which is there, sitting there, are essentially saying, well, we get to keep what we have because we got here first. And the rest of you, you have to stay where you are because you are a late comer. That is, of course, obviously a philosophy which we cannot accept. And therefore you may have seen time and again there is an insistence on the part of India that there has to be equitable burden sharing in dealing with what is a planetary challenge. And equity demands that those who are mostly responsible for putting those greenhouse gases where they are, they need to adopt more stringent measures than developing countries. It is true that our carbon emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions are increasing. It is true that even if there was no climate change now, the sheer necessity to deal with India's energy security challenge would lead you to do exactly what our National Action Plan on Climate Change says. So it is not that we don't have a responsibility. We certainly have a responsibility, but that responsibility has to be put in the context of this larger international responsibility. Now, it is unfortunate that during the past couple of years, or maybe 3 years now, the world has suffered a very major global economic and financial crisis. The result of this crisis has been that the whole issue of climate change has got linked together with issues of, economic welfare, of who gets to keep what he has, who can reduce his financial burden or economic burden. So instead of being an issue which should be dealt with as a collaborative challenge, you have essentially an approach which is very competitive in nature. So what happens when you have a competitive response? If I'm a diplomat and my government sends me to negotiate, what is the basic brief that I get? The basic brief is give as little as you can, extract as much as you can. Now, if you have every delegate sitting in the conference room with the same brief, which I presume every delegation has, what do you end up with? You end up with the least common denominator result. Because that's the only thing which can work in that kind of a competitive environment. And yet, what you are facing is a challenge which requires a maximal response, not a least common denominator response. And that maximal response cannot come out of this competitive negotiating process. Unfortunately, what should be climate change negotiations have become full-fledged economic negotiations, where people are looking at their competitive advantage. For example, if you say that climate change requires the diffusion, urgent and most extensive diffusion of climate-friendly technologies. But the West is saying, oh no, but this is our intellectual property. How can we transfer this technology to you, because this is proprietary technology. So when you get into those kind of arguments, then there is no way in which you can get that kind of collaborative response. So the unfortunate situation today is that we are locked in this kind of negotiating process. And the kind of resource crisis that we are facing. You have to recognize that the world is today living on an overdrive. You have now, every year, the World Wildlife Fund comes out with a kind of a scorecard with regard to resource use and what the planet can withstand in terms of the pressures which are being provided. And it today says that at the current level of resource use, we need 1.5 planets in order to just regenerate the resources which are required to just keep to this equilibrium. And if that increases, then maybe even 2 or 3 or 4 planets will not be enough to meet our requirements. So there is a certain resource overdraft which we are already in fact. And this is very easy to understand. Which had access to virtually resources all over the world. Since the rest of the world was at a very low level of development, their claim on resources, global resources, was very light. But as far as very highly industrialized countries like the US or Europe are concerned, they could adopt production techniques and consumption patterns which assumed that there was no limit to the resources available. One is the quantitative aspect of resources available, the second is the technology aspect, which you would understand. That even if there is a pressure, if I have the technology, I can extend the use of some resource a few years ago. But you would do that only if you have a small cluster of countries. When you have countries, continental-sized economies like India and China, forget about Brazil, forget about South Africa, forget about Nigeria. But if these countries are also now emerging countries, and you can't stop them from also having a claim on resources. You see today how China is going out and trying to, collar resources virtually all over the world. But the sad fact is that even if you try and get claims on resources in Africa or in Latin America, there is simply not enough resources available to sustain the kind of lifestyles, to sustain the kind of production patterns which have been put in place by the industrialized countries of the West. And which brings me to the last point, which is the aspirational levels that India has today, or China has today. What is the benchmark? The benchmark is the United States of America. The definition of the affluence is the wasteful kind of lifestyle which have taken hold in the West. I'll give you just one example. The United States of America today has 800 cars per 1,000 of population. Now you tell me, if in India you were to aspire to that level of car ownership, would there be enough place even for us to stand? What kind of level of fuel consumption we are talking about, even if you have the most fuel efficient cars? So it is simply not possible for us globally to be able to sustain the kind of lifestyles, the kind of production and consumption patterns which have become associated with success. Now this is where we need to start re-examining our own values. The fortunate part is that India has civilizational values which looks upon nature as a source of nurture, as a mother who needs to be respected. It's not nature being a dark force to be conquered and to be subdued, which is the Western world.
Give the mic.
Pallav Wagner from the Science magazine and NDTV. Shyam Saran, if I remember correctly, Jairam, when he went to Copenhagen and after that he said, I went there to protect India's economic growth, not say the word. Is that the principle on which we are still negotiating? That's the benchmark?
Well, at the risk of disagreeing with Jairam, I would say that these are not two contradictory things. India cannot save itself if the world is not saved. So, take for example the simple fact that today, if you look at global emissions, carbon emissions, what is India's share? It's just 4%. So, if tomorrow, by some miracle, I am able to eliminate those 4%, will it have any impact as far as climate change is concerned? None whatsoever. So, all the things which are happening to us because of climate change will continue to happen. Therefore, the need to have both national action together with, parallel with global action. Which is the reason why India's role in the global negotiations is so important. Because we cannot ensure our economic prospects if the world is not able to deal with this challenge of climate change. We will be the worst affected by climate change. Therefore, we have an interest in what happens globally. We cannot say, I don't care what the world is doing, I will continue to grow. I can't grow because the global situation is such, and we are so now connected to the globe that we cannot, just say, stop the train, I will get off.
I am Professor Rajagopal from IASc Bangalore, also very heavily involved in some of this work. India and China are the two countries which are the most populated and where the growth is going to be maximum. What is the coordination between India and China in this international, shall I say, dealings?
Our best allies in the negotiations, because we had very common and shared interests. Yes, China is, in terms of current emissions, is miles ahead of India. But the fact is that in terms of historical emissions, they are still a very small part. The difference is this. Today, China, unfortunately, is already locked into a pattern of development which is mimicking the West. You, on the other hand, still have the opportunity to take a somewhat different path, because most of your infrastructure still remains to be built. But that's a matter of choice. Are you going to encourage your motor vehicle industry? More and more cars on the streets? More and more people aspiring to have cars? Or are you going to say, no, what is required is that we must respect the right of mobility of our citizens, not necessarily the right to own a car. So are you prepared, for example, to make a very major significant shift of your investment, say from private vehicular industry to public transportation? Provide very, very efficient public transportation. People will use that. In Delhi, you have 87% of the population which uses public transport. 13% of the population uses private transportation. And yet this 13% will not allow the BRT to work. Which BRT is providing fast, reliable transportation to those 87%. But we don't respect their right, we respect the right of the 13% who want that they should have free access to these lanes. And why does it matter if those 87% people get to their offices late? That value has to change.
Taking a parallel with the NPT and CTBT, which India didn't sign, I mean, do you think the climate treaties are an effort to cap our per capita energy consumption at current levels?
The basic Western approach or the industrialized countries' approach is we get to keep what we have because we got here first. So this is the NPT formula as well. We get to keep nuclear weapons because we got here first. You better stay where you are because you are a late comer. This is a logic which we cannot accept. So we must resist a climate change regime which imposes unfair burdens on us. But this is not the same thing as saying I will accept no responsibility. There is a distortion of the Indian position which is peddled and sometimes is in fact even acknowledged by our own countrymen because they do not understand what is really at stake. We are not saying that we have no responsibility whatsoever with respect to climate change. How can we not have responsibility? As I said, we are the ones who are going to be most affected by climate change. But I think to say that there must be equitable burden sharing in dealing with what is a global challenge is a perfectly reasonable position for India. And therefore, if we say we cannot accept this because you are imposing these kind of conditions on us, you are restricting our space for development, I think that is perfectly reasonable.
Mechanical engineer. What do you think is the dual framework for carbon trading mechanism has been effective as it was envisaged during negotiations?
Number one, does nothing to reduce existing emissions. It's avoiding future emission by trading carbon. But the price for carbon depends upon how significant are the commitments you undertake to reduce your carbon emissions. Only then the carbon price will go up. Now, today, carbon price is about 5 to 6 euros per unit. Nobody is wild to go in for trying to have offsetting mechanism in developing countries. So these two things are linked together. Carbon trading is not a solution to the problem of climate change. It is only a facilitating mechanism for meeting the commitments under the UNSC. And because of the fact that Kyoto Protocol has been essentially trashed by the developed countries, there is today no legal basis for those significant reductions. Which business will take the risk if there is no legal basis for those reductions? So I'm afraid it is not a very effective solution.
MBA oil and gas from UPS. My question is regarding carbon dioxide sequestration. When we go for enhanced oil recovery, when we can bury carbon dioxide underneath, since many countries like Canada are doing it, why is it being followed in India to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You will use energy to take the carbon dioxide from, say, a coal-based thermal power plant, take it through a pipe, to what is a potential storage area, and then use energy also to pump it inside, right? That is something that is unavoidable. So you have to calculate whether or not the energy or power that you are using in order to extract, transport, put in, is that leading to a net reduction, net save. If it is not, it is of no use. Second is, where are the storage areas? If those storage areas are in regions which are seismically unstable. If you pump it inside, tomorrow there is some seismic event, what will be the impact when all this is vented outside? Nobody knows. Secondly, what impact this would have on aquifers underground when you pump all this carbon dioxide inside? Nobody knows. So there are huge risks involved. The use that you mentioned about oil, it's a very small use compared to the kind of scale of the problem that you are talking about. The storage that you need is multiples, thousands of multiples of what you are using today to do oil recovery. So that is not an answer to our problem as far as that is. Until these issues, which are very serious issues, have been actually dealt. And as you can see that over the last 5 years, despite the fact that this has been presented as a possible solution to the climate change challenge, it has hardly made any progress anywhere in the world. It's not just India. You tell me one particular place where it has made a big difference. It hasn't.
Yeah.
This only confusion modeling by the Indian government here. There is no clear ideas about flow chart and how we are going to use the various sources of energy. That's point one here. I don't think the policy clear. Second thing is that I am fond of having an international collaboration. For example, in the field of physics, higher physics and so on. International collaboration gives a lot of good things happen here. It happens in terms of thermonuclear fusion, right? Going on around the world, India is a part of it. There was possibility of having an international energy institution along the lines of CERN, in which countries like India, China, US and so on, there is just some thinking on the matter here. Third point I make is what I made a distinction between India's culture, that your values in terms of welfare is different from just having GDP and so on. But that India is exactly the opposite of what I said. And I don't know what it is with the hope that we are different and lead the world.
I'm saying is that there has been very deeply ingrained in Indian culture and civilization the aspect of respect for nature, the aspect of sustainability, which we have in a sense very much diverged from, because today the benchmark for you is the very high consumption society that you see in the West. So what I was making a plea for was, is it not time that we go back to re-examining some of those values which have sustained us for a very long period of time as a civilization? So I'm not saying that we are better than the others, we have this culture on display. It is not on display. That is the worrying part. That we should actually be doing something else, because we cannot sustain what we are doing today. With regard to energy, you are quite right that the government of India today does not have an energy policy. It does not have an energy policy for the simple reason that you have maybe 5 or 6 different agencies who are dealing with different aspects of energy. You have a Ministry of Coal, you have a Ministry of Power, you have a Ministry of Renewable Sources of Energy, you have a Ministry for Petroleum and Natural Gas. So you have different agencies looking at different components of our energy policy. And all these components are interconnected. So if you work in silos, how can you have a coherent energy policy? So the first order of business is, in fact, to create a Ministry of Energy.
which can take coordinated positions with regard to refugees. This is absolutely fundamental. And with regard to collaboration, this is precisely what we have time and again proposed in the climate change negotiations. For the simple reason that if we want a maximal response, then unless we collaborate together, how can we get that maximum response? Can we bring the best scientific minds together? You know, India and China may be behind, say, the United States or Western Europe, but we still have very, very substantial scientific and technological talent. Is there some way where we can create an international platform whereby we can pull all these resources together and to maybe deliver a punch with regard to what is everybody recognizes is a very, very urgent challenge? The response to that has been, you know, this is intellectual property matter. How can we think in terms of this kind of a collaboration, because it will mean that the interests of those who are holding intellectual property or proprietary technologies, they will be affected. So when you get into that kind of a competitive argument, then how can you have that collaborative response? But I can assure you that it's not for want of trying. This is what we have been suggesting for the last 4 or 5 years.
Of atmospheric science. So, I was thinking that you touched upon only one aspect of the CO2 emissions, which is of course very important and which is the most debating the global issue. But I think on a regional scale, the way we look at the atmospheric science and the composition, which is the land use changes which are occurring very, very important. Of our resources, in terms of building constructions, and in terms of various other requirements. So I think that is something I don't know how in the Indian context, we must take this into consideration and see that how land use changes is going to cause a micro.
There is only so much we can cover in about half an hour, but yes, you are quite right. I mean, it's not that only carbon emissions are greenhouse gases. There are much more powerful gases like methane, for example. And precisely recognizing this danger, in the national mission, in the National Action Plan on Climate Change, if you will go through it, you will see that there is a national mission on agriculture, and there is a national mission on water, and there is a national mission also on agriculture, water, and also on the green India or the forestry aspect. How do we expand the carbon sink in India by raising the acreage under forests? But if you look at agriculture and water resources, it is precisely to address some of those issues that these missions were adopted. So recognizing that the kind of very highly water-intensive, energy-intensive growth which has been taking place under the so-called green revolution over the last 40 years, in fact we have therefore created big problems for ourselves. There is also the question of a very fertilizer intensive, very pesticide intensive agricultural growth. That too is causing climate change. It has a very major climate change dimension. So in the National Mission on Agriculture, that is what you are trying to target. How do we get away from this water intensive, fertilizer intensive, chemical intensive agriculture to something which is in fact much more sustainable? I would be the first to admit that not much progress has been made in that respect, but that is certainly the intention behind that mission. And it is the same with respect to the Green India mission.
I see this global warming in a different way. If it is very much... Okay. If it is very hot, what is the problem? You have more evaporation, you have cloud, you have more rain, you have cooling. The problem is this one. If a volcanic eruption occurs, it emits so much carbon dioxide that no industry of the world can compare. You can see the Iceland also so much carbon. I don't think if you get to the paddy field, they will say, you stop your paddy field also. We have to be very careful about it. That's my opinion.
As the effects of global warming are concerned, there have been issues with respect to what this really would mean for the planetary systems. But the weight of scientific opinion, at least, is that global warming may have an impact on a very fragile kind of a interconnected life-sustaining system which we have today on the planet. So, if you have, for example, greater acidity in the oceans as a result of global warming, or because of global warming, you have a change in the ocean currents, which impact on the weather patterns all over the world. Through periods of greater warming, cooling throughout Earth's history. What is the difference here? The difference here is the scale at which this is happening, and secondly, the speed with which it is happening. Yes, a volcanic eruption may take place and block out the sun for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but it's an isolated event. Here you have all over the globe that kind of a change which is taking place and being sustained over a period. Human beings can adjust to change as they have throughout history. But human beings need time to adjust. If the speed of change is as rapid as it has become today, then you are going to have a problem adjusting. The frequency of extreme events has increased. When did you last hear about a hurricane hitting the east coast of the United States? Some years ago, I remember when we had rain in Rajasthan, and because the houses were built, with no rain in mind, all of them were washed away. So adaptability is something which is only possible if there is incremental change. If you have change which is so dramatic, as we are seeing happening all over the world, then you have a problem on your hands.
On the one hand, we are engaging into the global international negotiation about climate change. If you look at the oil and gas production, top 4 largest producing countries would be Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE. Now if you look at the global geopolitics of oil, you see the tremendous amount of wars, things are going on all over the world. The capturing of the Iraq, then the problem of Iran using the Iran oil, and the problem of negotiation between India, US and Iran. Now, aren't these developing countries are kind of silent spectators of these global oil politics? So we are on the one hand trying to push the developed world that we must negotiate, but on the other hand, when this kind of global oil politics are going on, what is the role of these developing countries like India and China? I see that they're kind of silent spectators. Isn't there fundamental dichotomy in both approaches?
A very major interest involved. For example, you mentioned the Middle East or the Gulf region. There are various reasons why this region is absolutely fundamental to India's interests. Number one, it is in your neighborhood, so whatever happens in your neighborhood does have a spillover effect on you. Today, there are 6 million Indians who live and work in the Gulf. So, if you are going to have a major confrontation there or armed conflict there, think of what your problem would be in trying to evacuate even a fraction of those people back to India. And even with respect to energy, I made the point that there is, while a strategic shift is necessary from your reliance on fossil fuels to renewable sources of energy like solar energy or building up more nuclear energy, there is a transition period. In a transition period, you will continue to need more coal, you will continue to need more oil, you will continue to need more gas. That is not a contradiction. You will need that in the internet. And that is another reason why your main sources of energy next door are so important to you. With, say, the Iranians or the Americans or the West Europeans, constantly we make the point that any kind of armed conflict in this region is going to be catastrophic. Certainly catastrophic to our interests, but by the way, it will also be catastrophic for interests of the United States and Western Europe as well. People say that the United States is no longer as dependent upon the Middle East today as it was in the past, but it doesn't mean that that dependence has gone completely. And if there is a huge spike in oil prices or gas prices because of disruptions here, it will affect the entire global economy, and it will affect the global economy at a time when the global economy is itself going through a crisis. It's a question of how much influence do you have. It's not that we have less concern or that we are silent spectators, but our own power is limited. How much power can India deploy? Not very much. Therefore, we try to work together with others, including China. And also, as I said, in our interaction with other partners, we constantly try to hammer this point home, that you should not do anything which is going to seriously undermine India's economic prospects and create problems for us politically as well. Because there is today, for example, a Shia-Sunni divide all over the Gulf. It is having already a certain backwash effect in our own country. And that's not good for us. So, please do not think that we are silent spectators. We are constantly making this point because it is so fundamental to our interests. Sorry, we don't have that capability.
Abhishek?
Steps to decrease energy. Can you hear now?
Yes.
So my question is if we take, it seems to me that if we take steps to reduce energy consumption and in general consumption, it's anyway good for the country. It seems to me if we build public transportation, make roads bicycle friendly, for example, or enforce smaller cars and so on. That's something which would anyway improve the quality of life and so shouldn't we just try to pursue that independently of international?
I'm ready to embrace that concept. So I gave you the example of what has been happening in Delhi with respect to public transport. What is the mindset that it represents? That a small minority wants to, not be subject to any such discipline. So societal values need to change. Can India, by going in a different direction, influence international opinion? Perhaps it can. But we are not making that effort as far as I can see. What we are locked in today is a pattern of growth and a pattern of consumption which essentially mimics the most wasteful countries in the world. That cannot sustain itself.
But we have constraint on time. Perhaps one or two very pressing questions. The last seat done you him because young student asking a question and then we.
First is about the status of international climate finance or maybe technology transfer as well. Is there any organization which kind of keep tracks of all these pledges which the developed countries make in all climate negotiation? And second, to what extent does India's domestic low carbon aspirations match with its own commitments?
Its own?
Its own commitments at any of these, say for example COP15. So is it higher than that? Is it lower than that? So what do you think?
Under the UNFCCC. The question really is how much money is going to be put in that fund? Merely putting up a fund with a label is not enough. As far as I'm aware, there are only two contributions at the moment. One is from Germany and the other is, I think, from Sweden. But most other countries have not announced any kind of contributions. Now, if these contributions are going to be voluntary contributions, you are not going to get very much of a fund. So it's not that nobody is monitoring. Under the Green Fund, constitution of the Green Fund itself, there is a monitoring mechanism. But the problem is that money is not coming in Most countries are saying we are in the middle of an economic crisis, financial crisis, and we simply do not have money to put in there. As far as the technology part is concerned, I mentioned to you what the difficulty is, because it has been our approach that technology is a very important part of the solution to this challenge. And if we were able to, as in the case of this ITER project, the fusion energy project, if we were able to get some of the best minds across the world and provide the resources that are necessary and say, we want you to really reflect on what is the manner in which we can deal with this challenge. Get the best minds in the world. Is what is called a technology network, which has been set up. And this technology network is looking at what kind of local innovations are possible, what kind of local adaptation is possible if climate change is inevitably going to take place, what are the ways in which we can help developing countries adapt to that climate change. But very limited agenda therefore. It is not, it's not the big idea. It's just what the minimum kind of a thing that you can do. Well, something is better than nothing, but it's certainly not the solution to the problem.
So you said hurricane in North Atlantic and rainfall in Rajasthan is unusual. But I don't think it's unusual. North Atlantic has a season from June to November. It's a normal hurricane season. If you see as a globally, we get about 80 hurricanes or cyclones in a year. And as far as India is also concerned, May and November is the season when we get cyclones. So I don't think it's unusual. It's a normal thing, a hurricane in the North Atlantic. Maybe damages, yes, damages are more because more and more people are building in vulnerable areas. Secondly, about Rajasthan. Rajasthan gets heavy rains whenever a depression forms in the Bay of Bengal. Instead of moving in the northwesterly direction, it moves in the westerly direction. It gives lots of rain to Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And it happens after a long period of time. And it's also a normal thing because Rajasthan has deep pan below, so water doesn't percolate and it leads to flooding. But many people consider it abnormal. But there are three things: normal, below normal, and abnormal, or above normal. So many people below normal and above normal, they are considering it as abnormal. That is also creating a lot of confusion.
Well, one is the adaptation to change. If something is a pattern which has been there for the last 100 years, 200 years, it is easier for people to adapt to those changes. If, in fact, these changes are taking place more rapidly, then people are not prepared for those kind of events. So it is not that hurricane never takes place in the North Atlantic or it has never happened before. This is not what I am suggesting. What I am suggesting is that the frequency of such extreme events has increased over the last several years. And one of the reasons why there has been such an impact in North America, or if you remember what happened with Katrina, what it is showing is that not that these are completely unusual, but these are happening much more frequently than they had before. And this is leading to a challenge in terms of adjusting to, adapting to those changes. Now, yes, there are climate skeptics who say, well, these changes have been taking place, for so many centuries, there's nothing unusual about it. My point is, yes, this is unusual because we are not prepared to adapt to this kind of a change. So we have to take into account the fact that something unusual is happening. And if we do not take cognizance of that, you may reach a tipping point where reversing is no longer possible. Because it has completely changed those systems that I'm saying are keeping our planet. Look at the recent biodiversity convention which we had in Hyderabad. The rate of extinction of species is the most rapid that has been seen over the last few hundred years. Now, can we say this is quite usual? Maybe. If you think it is usual, I can't quarrel with that judgment, but I think something unusual is happening, and as a species, we need to take that into account. I think we are headed in a direction which is not sustainable.
And I really thank Mr. Shyam Saran ji for engaging in this very lively discussion and for a very thoughtful and insightful talk. Thank you very much. I'd like to give a bouquet and a small memento.